Hello, it's Reija, and welcome to another live show. This is for the Shorts and Sorcery Book Club. Um, this is for the Shorts and Sorcery Book Club that I run every month. It's a book club where we read anthologies and short story magazines, all for the purpose of broadening our horizons in terms of different kinds of stories being told, and also to find out new and upcoming authors, and also, in my case at least, to prepare myself for example, the Hugo nomination period, etc. So it is a very like multi-purposeful book club, and I've had a lot of fun running it. And today I am going to be discussing Augur Magazine, issue 4.2, and this issue was themed around woe and wonder. And the issue is edited by Therese Mason-Peer and Lauren Steven. And I personally really liked this entire issue because it's like Augur Magazine has this approach to all of their stories that they are all very diverse in a variety of ways. There is diversity of different kinds of people, like you have people from different backgrounds, you have indigenous and other BIPOC creators from Asian heritage, African heritage, all coming together in this one magazine with their own interesting stories and perspectives. You have variety of different genders, and you have a variety of different thoughts and processes and different understandings of what the theme is. And the whole theme around this issue was of woe and wonder. And while I was reading this magazine, I noticed that there are so many different ways to approach this whole um, topic. Um, for example, this idea of what woe is, there was a lot of stories about various types of grief. And grief could mean a lot of things in these stories. It could be the grief over losing a loved one, for example, a grandparent or a child, or even a child you have never met, but you are prepared to carry to term and give birth to. And there is also the grief of losing a partner, a lover. There are stories about breakup, and also the grief over losing agency and losing sight of who you are and not really knowing even what your own personal identity is. And I thought that it was very fascinating. This was definitely one of the um, one of the more thought-provoking magazines that I have read so far. I have not read a many, but this is like the third one that I have read during this book club, and also this is this is like all of the magazines that I have read, like Fire Magazine and Choreo Magazine, were very strong in terms of story, um, and in terms of like author lineup. But this, I think, is also strong in terms of like the central theme and um, how all the stories actually really connect to the central theme, even while being completely and utterly different. Whereas I feel like the other two magazines that I've read, the particular issues, they were certainly focused on theme, but there wasn't as much variety in the types of stories they were telling. They like it was really interesting, and this is very much like my anecdotal experience. So don't take it as like the ultimate fact about short story collections or magazines, but like I just thought that it was very um, interesting to like notice while I was reading this. I had a lot of fun with this, and today I am expecting to go around 30 minutes or so talking about this issue, and I am going to be focusing on my favorite things. And one thing that I have to say is the fact that this issue has so much, like, in terms of poetry. And that's another thing that I really liked about this, is that it has a variety, not only in regards to like the people who are creatives behind it and the ways and the stories that are being told in like um, writing approach and ways in which they approach the theme, but also in terms of format. So you have short stories, then you have poetry, and you also have a comic in this issue. I thought that it was really exciting. And yeah, without further ado, I am going to be talking about my favorite stories. And then in the end, I'm going to be reading the two favorite poems that I liked. I have to say that I am not very versed in poetry. I don't read it and consume it too often, but I am definitely more open to it now, especially because like this had like lots of like narrative poems, and I have noticed that when a poem speaks to me and really captures my attention, it usually has to have like some sort of narrative element. Also, hi Joe, nice of you to join, and also Jenna. Good vibes indeed. I think that is an emoji, and unfortunately, SteamYard can't understand it. But I get your message loud and clear. So, first off, I want to talk about The Captive River by Cj Muchemwa. Cj Muchemwa is a Zimbabwean author, and this story is about this woman who has been betrothed, engaged to a river god, essentially, from childhood, and has been trained to become this river god's concubine. Essentially, what this means is that she will eventually be sacrificed. She will be a sacrifice in order to appease the river god. And secretly, she has been harboring some magical powers, and she has no intention of becoming a mere sacrifice. Unfortunately, her whole world comes to like, and everything she's known comes to an abrupt um like end in a way, um because when she is taken to be sacrificed to the river god, they found out that the river god is in fact dead. And there's this interesting idea about losing your sense of purpose and trying to, like, because you have been trained from childhood to be a certain way, and then losing your sense of purpose because the thing that you have been trained to do doesn't exist anymore. So you kind of have to build yourself back up and find a new purpose. So that's in and of itself a kind of interesting take on the whole um, topic of woe and wonder. And the wonder part, I think, comes from the fact that the reason why these sacrifices to the river god even happen is that the river is dammed up, and the original spouse of the river god, another river god, has been banished to the other side of the dam. And that is why the river god has been acting up and demanding these sacrifices. And the dam itself um, is the result of colonialism and overdeveloping the land. And so I just thought that this was a very interesting and fun, well, fun is a strong word. It was a very thought-provoking story. And there was also like this um, idea that community coming together to like reverse the, like like you can't reverse the results of colonialism by yourself, but as a community coming together, you can mitigate it and you can change your community and your surroundings for the better. I also think that this title was very interesting, the captive river, because the river itself is literally and figuratively captive and imprisoned and doesn't flow in the way nature intended. I thought that it was a very interesting story. So, yeah. And then the other story that I really liked was The Gifts of the Mango Tree by Anclaire Baguio. And Anclaire Baguio is a Filipina author. And hello, Tesla. Hello. I am talking about stories. Do you want to join? Hello. You are an interrupting menace. I was just talking about mangoes. Is that why you came? Because you got hungry. Yes. Okay. So Anne-Claire Baguio is a Filipino author, and this is kind of a story that is a fabulous tale set in contemporary times, and it and also combines elements of like family history and magic, and this kind of idea that a fairy tale can have happened in your family, and there's sort of this secret, um, sort of like a curse and a gift. And also this kind of idea of like, what is the difference between a curse and a gift? So the main character is this woman who goes to this corner store to buy snacks and stuff and talks to this old lady there. And the old lady starts telling her a story about these sisters who um, stole mangoes from this kind of neighbor who ended up being a spirit. And the thing that happens is that the story the old woman is telling kind of starts to have very familiar and um, creepy vibes to the woman when she starts recognizing her own family members in the story. I thought that it was very atmospheric. I thought that it was beautifully written, and I would say that you could actually pick up this whole magazine issue for the story. This was probably my favorite. It was very short. Um, it kind of ends abruptly, but I just thought that it was intensely atmospheric, and also goes to show that there are things that family members don't necessarily share with each other, and that you can feel very left out of things and out of the loop even within your own family. So I thought that that was a nice touch and very relatable to me. And then a bit of baby medicine is the third story that I really liked, and this is a story by Jessie Lawyer. And Jessie Lawyer is a indigenous Cree Métis author, and this is about grief over losing a grandparent, losing a loved one, and it is about this granddaughter and her grandmother meeting in this liminal space between dream and waking up. It is not the afterlife, but it is kind of like the in between the real world and the dream world. And they meet up and they talk, and the grandmother starts telling her granddaughter that she wants her to have a child. And this granddaughter has actually lost a child before. So it is about grieving the loss of something you have known for a long time, in this case, a grandmother, and also grieving the loss of something that you wanted but could never meet, which in this case is the child that she lost. And it is also this idea of coming into terms and coming to accept the loss and being able to live with it. And then the story ends in a very hopeful note. I thought that this was very hopeful, and I don't want to use the word inspiring. What could be a good synonym for that? I feel like this was kind of, it made me very wistful, and kind of, it was a bittersweet story, I think, because it's like you always kind of live with your grief when you have lost someone, but then this idea that the grief becomes lesser, it warps and changes to something more manageable. I think that that was the message behind the story, and I really liked it. So yeah, would recommend reading that one also from this issue. And then the last story, before I move on to the poems and reading about the poems, and also I want to show you a little bit about the comic that um, this issue had, is Cenotaph by Cj Levine. And here is another story where I think the title of the story was really fantastic in terms of like um, giving this giving the expectation of what the story is about. So what cenotaph means, I wrote it down. The like dictionary definition of cenotaph is an empty tomb or a monument erected in honor of a person or group whose remains are elsewhere. And this story is about a breakup. It is about a person who has broken up with their girlfriend, and this immense sadness and discomfort surrounding the breakup takes the form of a statue that follows her around. And the statue is it's a statue that was in the place where she used to go often with her girlfriend, and now it's just following her around. It is this physical reminder of a time, of a memory and a place that she no longer goes to because she is broken up with that person and that person is no longer living with her and stuff. And I just thought that that was really interesting because, in a sense, when you have spent many years or many months in the presence of someone who is very close to you and you love them, that is kind of like a little death when they leave. You know that they are alive, they are happy somewhere else, and they haven't actually died, but it feels to you as if they have. And that could be anything from a friendship breakup to a romantic breakup, etc. I just thought that uh, this story was very interesting. And it's also kind of like straddles the line between being very creepy and almost having like borderline horror elements to being fantastical and kind of fairy tale-ish. I thought that that was very interesting. So yeah, Cenotaph by Cj Levine was also a standout in this collection. And oh, there was another story I liked. So another story I liked was Some Things That Happen When You Have the Strength of 10 Men by Mel Negro, who is a genderqueer author. And this is basically has some. This is basically what it says on the tin. It is a person. This is told in second person narrative, so you never really know if the person is a woman or if they are a man or if they are cis or if they're trans. There are some pretty explicit like trans vibes going on in the story, and it is basically about this person having a kind of superpower. They literally have the strength of 10 men, and they have kind of these 10 different kinds of men inside themselves. And it is kind of like, it almost feels like a metaphor for like limiting yourself and about toxic masculinity, and also about different aspects of masculinity that this character is suppressing inside themselves, um, because they are kind of suppressing the strength. They are suppressing the different sides of themselves in order to be more conforming to society's expectations of them. And it is also about the loss of family and this idea of what can happen when you don't know how to communicate properly with your family and your family doesn't really understand you. So yeah, this was fantastic. And I thought that this actually ends not only does it end in a very hopeful way, but it also ends at just the right point. I feel like sometimes with short stories, they kind of tend to end when the story is just getting going. So you are just expecting like, okay, now the climax will happen after this, and then the story just sort of ends there. This one, I think, starts and finishes at the perfect point. So yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot. So yeah, those are all of the really like standout stories for me that I personally really liked um, in this collection. And now I want to talk a little bit about the poems. I didn't understand a lot of the poems. There were so many in here. There, like, basically after each short story, there is a poem or two. So I would say about 50% of all of the things in this collection are poems, and some of them are really great, and others I just sort of did not get. Uh, so I'm not actually going to be talking too much about the poems that I did not get, because it's a very, like, I think poetry is a very personal thing. So I would rather in this case focus on the ones that I really liked and that kind of spoke to me. So I'm gonna actually share the screen and um, read some of the poems. So yeah, let's go a little. No, okay, here. So this is her flower crown doesn't contain edible flowers, which kind of feels very silly. Like you kind of wonder, like, this title doesn't make any sense, and then you read the poem and it completely makes sense. So this is a narrative poem, and I'm going to read it. Ahem. Halfway through a dream, the woman, not a girl, awakes alone, in the castle where her people droop like cut blooms forgotten in a glass. Beauty departs, walks through nettles and woods, not knowing adventuring is homecoming, not knowing fairy tales enough to guess what happens next. The cold king says she's been too sad for far too long, as she tastes an unknown amanita in tall, half-sinister grass, though he accompanies her past possible opium fields beyond where plant life grows. Women who resemble her draw him away to an ungreen house, its flowers wrong, scents and opposite colors. The figure cloaked in light feeds her the sweetest bitter almond, words in a palace in the air. He offers his home with women as her stepsisters. The offer, not a draught, but witched apple. Blossom, drink me, it beckons. She crushes its coolness between the pearls in her teeth, burning her throat. She expands as rings of petals unfurl at the ball. She dances until the clock strikes. She wins the crown of delirious snow-white petaled datura, and witch velvet black belladonna, and pre-night sky delphinium, and gown as bright as the sun, rhododendron, and amidst arsenic green ivy, the pale, dark gleaming. Bells ringing to herald a funeral and a kiss, ascension and coronation. She throws her flowers to the crowd, her own toxic blood half remembering. Then this isn't the end she dreamt. I thought that this has such cool imagery. It kind of takes this approach of a fairy tale. It has references to Beauty and the Beast. It has references to Cinderella, and also it kind of has references to the 12 Dancing Princesses. And every single plant and flower that is mentioned here is also a type of plant that can be used as poison. So it is kind of like this idea of like being surrounded by poison and also becoming poison in a sense. I just thought that this was such a cool poem. I really liked it. I'm not going to lie and say that I understand every bit of it, but I just feel like it is such evocative of different types of feeling that I really liked it a lot. So yeah, this one I thought was really cool. Like, cool is a great way to describe this. It, like, I can imagine what the narrator and the character in that poem looks like, and like, I could also I could almost see it like being animated inside my head. So that was a cool touch. And then the other poem that I want to share is Close Up by Pamela Yuen. And this is kind of different. This feels like something like a breakup, a loss, but also like something that has a little bit of like built-in eroticism in the way that it in the way that it chooses to use certain phrases and words. So this was really interesting. So I will just quickly share this one. So, Close Up, Pamela Yuen. I am at home folding laundry when I decide it is time to cut your conduit to God. It's the truth in frayed jeans, a grey sock with a hole in the toe. I pick up some mealy Kleenex from a still damp pocket, and baboom! It is like we are there again. The very first time I made you whole. Your insistent pleading, a reach between my splayed knees. Just a teensy little place, just a teensy little piece, something wrenched as a diamond from the deep, folds of me to be shoved, smuggled up the roiling parts of you. Across town, I feel it, unraveling. The sharp snap of severance, a plastic poncho ripping open in the rain. Your bare chest, all dolphin skin, glistens smooth to the camera, which cuts to the distant roar of the Azores. To a scarred blue whale who is done growing old, she sinks to some ancient exhaustion. The ragged cosmos at its closing. Now, if you watch, if you are quiet, if you hold very still at the bottom of this next shallow breath, a black hole quivers. Stop motion shudder. Then the whole salty weight of the universe collapses. And just like that, we are done. It is over. There she goes, gently soaring. I just feel like this packs a punch. Like, there's this weird intimacy and erotic tension in this poem, but also this idea of like this domesticated and sort of everyday mundanity, which comes with the, for example, the use of frayed jeans or Kleenex and folding laundry that is very mundane and everyday. And then there are these other things that are very larger than life. So yeah, I just thought that this was a lot of fun, and this whole magazine was a lot of fun. And the last thing that I want to share with you is the actual comic that this magazine has. So I'm just going to share my screen again and show you what it looks like. I'm not going to like let you read it, because I would hope that if this magazine interests you, that you would support the authors and pick it up yourself. But I just thought that it was very neat that this magazine has an actual graphic work in it as well. This idea of a variety of different expressions and different ways of telling a story in a single issue, I thought was really interesting. And the graphic story wasn't actually like my favorite thing. It was very short. I didn't get a lot of like narrative impact from it, but I just thought that it was very nicely drawn, and I was just so elated that this magazine had a graphic work in it. I wish more SFF magazines and literary magazines would include graphic work. So I thought that that was a nice touch. And so, in conclusion, I will say that my experience with this issue was very nice. I am very happy that I chose this. And if you still want to read Augur Magazine and take part in the conversation. The Goodreads groups for all of the books that have been chosen and read in the Swords and Sorcery Book Club are open all the time. So don't feel afraid, or don't be afraid to take part in older conversations and read backlist titles that have been chosen for the book club. I very much encourage it. And yeah, I hope you have a lovely and good time. And the next book that we will be reading, just as I find the thing, the next book club pick that I have chosen for the Swords and Sorcery Book Club is, just a moment, The Way Spring Arrives and Other Stories, from a visionary team of female and non-binary creators, edited and collected by Yu Chen and Regina Kanyu Wang. This is the May pick for the Swords and Sorcery Book Club, and the live show for this one would be the first Saturday of June. So this is also translated for the most part. It has a lot of non-fiction essays as well. So feel free to join the book club and read this with us. And yeah, I hope you've had a lovely time with me. And yeah, 30 minutes right on the dot. I am very happy with this. And yeah, see you next time in the next live show. Bye bye.